Welcome, everyone, to Livestream Stars. I'm Ross Brand. This is the show where we feature talented broadcasters delivering high-quality content across Livestream platforms. The Livestream Stars is brought to you by Livestream Universe for everything live streaming. Check it out at livestreamuniverse.com. And we are now doing daily updates with our recommended broadcasts and other live stream news. You can catch it on our Facebook page, facebook.com/livestreamuniverse. And a website just for this show. It's livestreamstars.tv. You can see upcoming guests and view replays of past shows. Coming up on Monday next week, Jim Collison from theaverageguy.tv. Vincent Orleck. Not a guru, not a ninja, and not a... What's the third one? It's I always...
Maven or a rock star. None of those.
Oh, I think you're a rock star.
I don't know. I'll never call myself that stuff. I'll tell you that.
So Vincent is the president of the Social Media Club Phoenix, where he leads meetups and collaboration efforts with local social media marketing community and even with startups, entrepreneurs, tech, and more. He's also a social media consultant for businesses and has lived in the Valley of the Sun for the last 10 years. Originally from Rhode Island, he and his wife Marissa have two daughters, 15 and 2 years of age, wide span there. And Vincent has also appeared several times on TV news shows in Phoenix, providing commentary on social media issues. And is, of course, as everybody knows, the founder and admin of the Blabaholics Facebook group. And speaking of Blabaholics, Vincent, you continue to rock on with Blab. There's no stepping back for you. You got shows scheduled. You've been doing weekly shows on Blab?
Christian Karasevich and we still do a weekly Thursday evening show, afternoon show. I mean, it's afternoon for me. Like this one is afternoon for me, right. Evening for you guys, 3-hour difference. I mean, we do it weekly. It's about the social media news of the week. Really, we just take a few of the pieces and talk about them. And then we also give some new tools. It's the focus is around trying to integrate that information for businesses, for brand use, not just talk about it, but what does this matter for a business, for what's the actionable thing they can take away from it.
Right. And I'm sure you've been getting a lot of questions about what's the actionable thing people can take away from Pokemon Go.
That too. I actually just recorded a podcast earlier today with my buddy Tyler Anderson. For the Social Media Social Hour. That'll be be published later this week, I believe, on Thursday, about Pokemon Go.
So what's your thoughts before we move to the meat of the show? Just real quick, what's your thoughts of what's going on?
I love it. I mean, I'm always, and I credit Mr. Fanzo that's in here for getting me on this train of being more and more of an early adopter. I'm never going to be as much of an early adopter as my friend there, just because he's all over stuff. And but I try to keep up, and with this, it seems like everybody was an early adopter right when it came out, right? About a week and a half ago. And I think for businesses, there's huge opportunity. Anything that drives that kind of traffic and that kind of enthusiasm pulls people together in the thousands in some cases. I mean, there's so many different ways you can take advantage of that as a small business, as a bigger business, as an entrepreneur. I mean, you don't even have to play the game or be on the app to market using that traffic.
Right. And one of the things Nick Rishwain, who's in the chat, has mentioned that he's paying attention not so much because he's interested in this as is like a way to learn kind of augmented reality and see so that he's ready for the next round. If the next round may pertain more to his business than this round does with Pokemon Go.
Yeah. I mean, the opportunities are really endless. I don't see a limit on any of this stuff. And more so, I've always felt that with the AR, the augmented reality versus the VR, the virtual reality. I know there's a lot of folks that are on that virtual reality train. I mean, I think it's going to do great things, but it is limited right now because of the hardware. I mean, you have to have the hardware, and you're not going to have that in your everyday life. Certainly for certain experiences, certain things, it's a huge component. But augmented reality, as we're seeing right now at Pokemon, everyone's got this, and it's in there. And I mean, Yelp was doing that a few years back in their app with they had a monocle feature, it was called, and you could open it up and you could see restaurants around you in augmented reality that would pop up with the little sign indication of the name of the restaurant, if it was open, what the ratings were.
Right.
Now it's a little bit more hidden. There's some reasons for that, I think, but that was, I remember using that, and I thought I was kind of mad when it went away. And now it feels like AR is really going to start coming back now with this popularity of Pokemon Go.
Yeah, Rachel Moore mentions in the chat that Yelp is starting to let you sort businesses by Pokemon locations.
Yeah. That's, I mean, there's all kinds of things happening. It's I mean, look at and I know we'll get into this in a bit, but Hillary Clinton, she mentioned Pokemon Go in a speech she just gave about how to get people to the polls, and they're taking action, and they're dropping lures in different places, and they're sending volunteers out to register people to vote at those spots that are going for the Pokemon. So wow. That's one way to do it.
Wow, that's going to be some kind of foot traffic going around if the political groups start hanging out where the Pokemon locations.
It's all
I mean, hey, I mean, everybody's going to be piggybacking off it, something like that. I mean, it's kind of like riding the hashtag, right? I mean, you see a hashtag and okay, I can join this discussion and relate it to my business, is how a lot of people use Twitter. So it's kind of the same thing. Now you're riding the location, but it's
it's actual foot traffic and in real life connections, and they're at or right close by to you where your business is. Now you just have to get them a few feet, closer to your door.
Right. So with the political convention season starting today, talk a little bit. I know you do some, you've done some TV commentary out in Phoenix on news channels about how the election's going as far as candidates using social media. We know Twitter is very much involved in this race, right? Yeah. Let's talk about live streaming. To what extent are you seeing candidates using live streaming?
Well, today, it's right now, it's not so much the candidates, it's today specifically is the RNC and some of the networks, right?
Right.
I mean, I've definitely seen them using Snapchat, which is live streaming in a sense. It's a bit of an offshoot, right? But they all from the beginning, I mean, Rubio, Sanders, Clinton, Trump all had Snapchat accounts. Some of them used them more than others. And that was, you could argue the effectiveness, given that probably Sanders was the one who was piggybacking, there's your term, piggybacking off of the audience on Snapchat, and it didn't get him to the spot he needed to get to. But he had the groundswell. I mean, he definitely had the groundswell. Kasich was active on Snapchat. In fact, he was the one, I used him as an example on one of those TV spots, because we were talking about Snapchat for the politicians in the campaign. And Kasich had the famous one, if you follow it, with Romney. He had the picture of him sitting with Romney on the snap. And that was the one that blew everyone away. They're Kasich and Romney are sitting in Snapchat, using Snapchat. That was at least when I was talking about on that show, that was a big thing. The reporters were like, "Whoa, what?"
So I don't know how much candidates are taking out their phone and doing a Periscope or a Facebook Live. Probably not much.
I don't see that. Obviously, the campaigns are going to be very as real time and as real, authentic as they kind of are. They're really not. I mean, even Snapchat, the snaps are orchestrated to a point. I mean, they're not taking snaps. They're not just taking it themselves. Someone in the campaign is in charge of the live stream account or the social media or the Snapchat account, and they're doing that. And it's planned out for the most part. Now, it's not to say that here and there they're not doing some things on the spot that they're discussing first and say, okay, yes, let's do it. Obviously, right? They're not going to do anything that's not totally planned out. I haven't seen Trump do really much of that at all. I haven't seen any of them really use live streaming per se, because that was always the thing when Blab first came out. I remember that was one of the first discussions that we had was Imagine how a candidate could use something like more like Fire Talk or Blab rather than Periscope to actually communicate with people. You know, good or bad.
You could have your town hall on Blab.
You could have your town hall. You could just sit there and I mean, can you imagine the kind of coverage that would get if that person, say Trump, jumped on a Hangout or Blab or Fire Talk and was sitting here taking people, bringing them into the call? Like as whether you like him or hate him, it would be a pretty remarkable thing to see.
Mm-hmm. You know, the only candidate that I've seen, and I certainly don't really follow politics on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. To the extent I do, it's like, okay, now I'll go watch it on TV or read about it, and then I'll go back to doing the rest of my life. So I kind of segment it from commenting on it. I did see somebody shared a live stream that Newt Gingrich was doing on Friday, and he was very like he just talked, and then he started taking questions from people in the chat, and I was surprised about that because, you know, those guys so want to control the questions and things like that. And I was saying to myself, well, he probably has the chops to do that, but I'm thinking that he also got the notice that he's not going to be picked as vice president, so he feels a little more free to say whatever he wants and do whatever he feels.
I totally agree with that. Totally agree. I totally agree with the fact that he basically had nothing to lose at that point. And in all honesty, maybe he was a little PO'd, you know? He might have been a little mad and was like, you know what? Forget these guys. I'm going on live stream. I'm going to start talking to people and answering questions. Like, if that's what it takes, then okay, he did it. You know, that's great. More of that is always good. You know, get him on.
But even knowing the risks, right, for the major candidates, and even knowing what's at stake, and there is so much at stake, and any wrong word is going to be, you know, in the news cycle for several days and everything. There is a certain relatability that a candidate can get that I can't really think of another way using media other than meeting you in person. I mean, where they can really show off if they're confident in what they know and confident that they can talk about the issues of the day, then why not get on there and let you and me and the great people in this chat and everything ask them the questions that we want to ask? Because when they do the debate, right, like when they do the debate and they say like, oh, this is co-sponsored by Facebook or whatever, and we're going to go to so-and-so out there for it's so phony. It's like, oh, we discovered there's this Facebook thing and people are using it. And by the way, we sourced the same dumb question that somebody would have asked if we went to the crowd for a question. It's not like they asked something. It's like, damn, that was deep. You know, I don't think the anchor would have asked that question or the moderators would have. It's always something with like, you know, so what do you think of birds in the sky? Oh, great. You know, thank you. Or, you know, it'll be some other question like, oh, you know, so-and-so's 33 and has a question about healthcare or whatever. So it's not really worth all that much. It comes across as sort of phony and insincere to me, like the TV networks are trying to be cool or they got enough money from Facebook. I don't know what you think about that, but it seems like the worst way that they could integrate social media.
Yeah, it's a start. I mean, it started back, you know, with President Obama, of course, because he was so ingrained and utilized social media to get to where he's gotten both times. And you know, the Republican Party really still hasn't caught up, I don't think, compared to what Obama's done. Now President Clinton.
There's news right here on Livestream Stars. Vincent Orleck is called.
I called it. Hey, well,
Zero Precincts reporting.
I was alive in 2000. Come on. I remember that's basically what Tom Brokaw did too. I mean, come on. No, Hillary Clinton. I mean, she does okay with social media. You know, it's nothing really groundbreaking. The Pokemon thing is really the first big groundbreaking thing I've heard that could be even in that class. You know, they're posting on their Facebook pages. They're using Twitter. Trump has single-handedly kept Twitter relevant in the last year. You know, as much as I love Twitter, he's really brought this whole thing back to Twitter. I don't know. I mean, I don't know without him if that would have happened. You know, the fact that he uses that as an outlet, as his main outlet, is pretty incredible. But they don't. President Obama was the one who really utilized it, and I still don't feel like the ones that are candidates now or have been in the campaign this whole year have really done anything groundbreaking or really taken advantage of it, aside from maybe Bernie Sanders using Snapchat in that way. Some of them
I think
followed him.
Perhaps what was kind of revolutionary about what Obama did is that his campaign used it before it was really crowded, right? Before it was so noisy. So they got a lot of mileage out of it with a little competition. I think Trump is getting mileage out of it from not sticking to the script on it, right? Like what he posts is not what you'd expect a candidate to post. So he gets a lot of attention for his tweets.
Right.
Whereas if you're just posting sort of the same thing that's in the press release, taking a line out of that, I think it almost goes unnoticed at this point amongst all the noise on Twitter.
And Rachel just brought up that was a big move when Clinton's campaign tweeted that delete your account comment to Trump, because that was you don't usually see the candidates, especially once they get to the presidential campaign level, the nominees, presumptive nominees, they don't get, like, to a point they don't get really into it adversarial. Here and there,
Right.
There might be a moment, right? Like when Obama and Romney had that moment about the Book of Women that Romney talked about, and I think it was about gun control, but it was the reporter for CNN, Candy. Oh man, I forgot.
Candy Crowley.
So that was like the biggest moment. And to your point about the questions, it came from her. It didn't come from the audience at that town hall. It was her that was like following up and really pushing Romney a little bit on some things. Binders full of women. Yeah, that's what it was. But yeah, I'm looking forward to. I mean, it's these debates. Man, for pure theater and political campaign season, the Clinton versus Trump, and now Pence, assuming that's good. Pence versus whoever Hillary brings in.
You have a guess?
Man, I don't know. You know what? I don't know. I kind of would have liked to have seen Elizabeth Warren, but I think she's better served not doing it, and she may even be priming herself for a presidential run herself in the future.
Yeah, it's going to be nasty. I think it's going to be real nasty. This group, both sides of this group can. This group can.
Well,
play.
Did you just see? So I was watching. I don't know if you had a chance to jump on any of that recently today, but the RNC started today, day one. I was looking for it on Twitter because Twitter said they're going to live stream it, and I tweeted Twitter. I was like, how do I find this? I can't find it. I literally can't find it. So if anybody in the comments or Ross, you know how to find it on Twitter, the live stream, can you put the link in here, please? But otherwise, I was watching it. C-SPAN is live streaming.
Unless they're just doing like the main prime time. Oh,
no, they're live streaming it. They're doing it.
The whole thing, like gavel to gavel.
Thank you. I knew it was that Twitter.com iLive URL, but I couldn't find the link to it. So thank you, Rachel. Yeah, so they're live streaming it. I guess the convention floor was Google. Thanks, Rachel. No, that's called Twitter, actually. But yeah, but they do work together now since Google indexes all the tweets. The roll call thing that just happened on the convention floor was super interesting because it's day one. A few hours in, almost to the end, and I don't even know if that happened just now or a few hours ago, that they called it chaos. Everybody was calling it chaos on the floor because they were trying to do roll call. The Never Trump people were trying to get things squared away so that they could do a rules, adjust the rules, do a roll call so they could do a rules evaluation or a rules change for their delegates. So that was interesting. I think that was a bigger moment than people realize right now, because that was like the big, idea that people had that Trump maybe wouldn't get the nomination because of that potentially happening.
Right, right. And so it turned out that he overcame that, or
well, I mean, he didn't do anything. They whatever the party, or they just go up there, the chairman or someone that's representing the party itself goes up on.
So they just disrupted the proceedings.
Well, no, they're called. This is like official business. They go up and they're like, we want to, yay or nay on if we want to do a roll call for a rules evaluation, and they all yell and yell, and then the party head decides and says, oh well, the yays have it, and that's it.
Right.
That's it. It's incredible. But as far as the the live streaming aspect, yeah, you could watch that live, like you said. Twitter, Rachel provided that link. Thank you for that. C-SPAN has it live. There's a number of
some more daytime drama than you would normally expect at a convention, right? Like in the past few years, the past few conventions, it's going back probably to at least the late 90s, 2000, I guess, whatever. They've been so scripted that there isn't a step that isn't choreographed, and obviously with this one, it's not scripted at all.
With the dissension that exists within the Republican Party, and honestly, with the Bernie Sanders delegation or supporters, they're probably going to be a little bit noisy. But the fact that he came out and endorsed Hillary the other day is going to squash a lot of that. And but the RNC, this is the one we've all been waiting for. I mean, this is the grand theater of this election season. The RNC in Cleveland is what it's all about right now.
Right, right. So how have you seen the media using live streaming and covering the election?
Personally, I see them, they're using Facebook Live. I mean, they're certainly using Facebook Live. They're broadcasting their maybe not nightly news, but often they're putting their actual broadcast on their Facebook page. Individual reporters are hopping on Facebook Live, whether it's from the station's page or their own page. I've seen that. I've seen them on Periscope. I mean, but that's something they've been doing for a little bit already. I'm seeing people that are on the delegation floor, not even reporters or media, but just delegates using Periscope today and showing what's going on.
Showing their viewpoint, their vantage point of what's happening. Yeah.
But they're using I fully expect Facebook Live to be a bigger player than Periscope on this, just because of the reach and the way that, like, people know on Facebook Live, if they go to this place or it shows up in their feed, they can just click and start watching the live feed from a network, a major network, or a major reporter.
And it's amazing what reporters can do with just a cell phone. I mean, yes, they have their shot that they set up in their interviews, and yeah, they get their footage from inside, right? But it's pretty cool when they just go outside and they walk around the rally and they just show you, like, here's how the crowd's gathering. This is what they're chanting.
Absolutely.
This is how long the line is, whatever. They just show you with their cell phone. They just start chatting with people. Where I've seen people do that, it's kind of, in a way, it's almost more interesting than the produced reports, because you're seeing it in its context completely.
I love when someone, like, I'm trying to think of a good example of who's done it. Well, there's one reporter, Liberty Zamala, Liberty Z something, her last name. She's on Snapchat. And she's with NBC, but she shows a lot of her reporting, that, like, at the scene, after she's already done the live spot or recorded the pre-produced segment, whatever. She'll be like, oh yeah, we came out for this and this is what happened, it's more of a live feel than her live stand-up was. Right. We have a local reporter here. Her name is Liz Kodalik. She was down in Tucson. Now she's up here in Phoenix on, I think, the morning show, fill-in, and she's been using Periscope since it came out. She was one of those people that was on an anchor desk on a morning show and would prop up her phone, turn on Periscope, and leave it on for like an hour while they're doing the morning show. And so we're like sitting there on the desk as she's doing the show, and then in between she's like, oh, hey guys, hey Periscope, and she's reading the comments. She's like, oh yeah, no, he's funny, he's a good guy. So it was really, really good stuff. Like that's.
We got Vincent coming up. He's going to talk about what's going on in social media, right? I mean,
yeah, it's a great tool.
I thought that was really cool.
Great tool.
And that's gutsy too, because I mean, I don't know about TV, but I worked in radio and certainly know what goes on when the mic.
Oh no, yeah,
on.
I did too.
And it's not always pretty.
No, well, so I did that. I did that also. I was an intern and a producer, and there was a lot of swearing at times, a lot of running between, you just get back with the piece of news or something that just came out. You had to get to the host right away, and food in the studio. Right. Maybe some beverages,
Have a great night, Rachel.
Thanks Rachel,
for joining us. So let's talk a little bit about Blab. You started the Blabaholics group a year ago. I know that I watched Blab for a day and was in love with the platform. I thought I would never do any kind of broadcasting again. It had been a long time, and I just wasn't into it. And then I saw Blab and I was like, wow, this is what I loved about it in the beginning, when it was just, a few people hanging out, chatting and all that kind of stuff. And so, I mean, it was great. It was great. Obviously they've announced that they're pivoting, or not really announced, but we're kind of dragged in front of a camera and said something to that effect. That
right.
So what do you make of both the rise of Blab to become, not a national phenomenon or anything, but to have a very small but strong community that was growing and passionate about it, and now the fact that they've kind of said, well, this is hang out, swipe and chill, right, and whatever you want to do.
Yeah, so I probably have, I don't know, maybe an unpopular opinion about it. I love Blab. I still love the idea of Blab, and the fact that it was so many people that I'm a fan of, and so many people that I'm friends with, that discovered it and told me about it, and then I got to tell other people about it. That was fun, that was great. And then it's like a Christmas morning opening a gift when you bring someone on Blab the first time, and you're like, okay, now click here, and you can tweet out the link, and all the little things, right? And everyone was always the marketing types, right? Us social media marketers, right, were always like, oh man, this is amazing, this is so great. And I feel like, so that was us. That was us. Mm-hmm. Then there was this whole other community on there that maybe some of us interacted with here and there, but I think they found us boring because they didn't want to listen to us talk about stuff, or they didn't want to. They had no interest in a show, watching another show. They were just on there. It was a place to hang out. And right. I can tell you, my wife still she was using it up until recently, but she's been using it, not unlisted Blabs, and she gets on with 3 or 4 friends they're in New York and other places, and they just get on there and hang, talk. They're just connecting. It's not about, it wasn't about putting a show together or anything like that. Not that there's anything wrong with doing shows. I love doing shows. I think it's a great place for that, connecting with people. But there was these few different segments on there, and I feel like the Blab folks, they didn't, for whatever reason, they didn't anticipate the marketing types to just go full steam and start doing all this stuff with it and start about monetization. Because that's what we always start to talk about now is how do we monetize this, aside from the community, right. And I don't totally think that they anticipated that it was going to take off quite like it did. And when it did, they started, they bought that small podcast company or whatever that helped the audio be better. And they were talking about more acquisitions. PodClear. Hey Cliff, what's going on?
The mayor's
here. PodClear, they bought PodClear and integrated them in. And Cliff is actually one of those folks that he hangs out on Blab and talks with people. And my wife, they're in a group together that they talk all the time, and it's great. And
Right.
I think that's where the Blab folks were coming from, where they envision more of that to be the case rather than the marketers getting on there. Not that we wouldn't, but
Right.
just more of a community feel. And that's what even Sean said in that last one. I mean, that was the last one I've seen him in, where he talked about people were asking him questions, and Joel got in there too, and a bunch. I popped in there and asked him some stupid question, and and he you know, he was, I don't know if he was agitated, but I think he felt like, oh well, I guess I just better jump in here and like answer these questions because everyone thinks that we're quitting Blab and all this, and you know, I just heard Blab is not really safe in terms of keeping your information. Like, it can be hacked easier now. The support isn't there. So while they haven't come out and said specifically, you know, to our faces, we're abandoning Blab, they've moved on to a point to this other app. I mean, they took the little purple owl and put it on the new app. It's got the purple owl logo. So
Is that Bebo?
Yeah, the Bebo app. If you go on the app, it's got the little purple owl on it now instead of the red owl. So
you think Blab is just alive, but it's just treading water until they pull the plug on it, or
yeah, I don't know if they'll ever pull the plug. That's the thing. I think they'll just kind of let it be, and then who knows? I mean, I guess what would be unless there's some financial reason to pull the plug. I don't know what it costs to keep it up and running. But then there's this other aspect to it where whenever someone goes in, like Joel and Vincenzo had their final show, right? That they used to do. And I don't know if you were in there, Ross, but there was a bunch of people that were coming in on the comments and be like, what do you mean? Where's Blab going? What's going on with Blab? What's wrong with Blab?
Right. Yeah,
you know?
I saw that.
Like,
it's
this topic amongst us within the live streaming and marketing that pay attention to it. But the general populace on there, I don't feel like they feel anything is happening that's different than has happened over the last year.
Right. I mean, I guess where I see that there's a huge change is that when not Sean, but the number 2 guy, Furkan, yeah, when he was on Tyler Anderson's podcast, I think August of last year, and he talked about podcast as a use case. He even talked about them being inspired by the kind of talk shows that were on ESPN and things like that. They had the tagline, press a button, host a talk show or something like that, right?
Changed again after that, right?
So I mean, that's what my issue was when they kind of came back and acted like, where did you get the idea that this was a place for hosting talk shows? This is a place to hang out. And, you know, well, talk shows aren't a use case. I'm sorry. Your tagline kind of drew me over here. I mean, you have every right in the world to change directions, to make a different business decision, to follow your own vision or whatever. I totally respect that. But, you know, it's a long life and you guys are young. You might as well just practice being straight with people, because if this Bebo thing doesn't work out, you know, I don't know. I mean, it seems like they pissed off a lot of people unnecessarily, where they could have just gotten in front of it or at least caught up to it and said, listen, we're pivoting. We're going to sit down. We're going to have a little talk with you guys, or make a speech or something. We're going to do it professionally. I'm not going to be walking around an office like I got to give you 20 minutes of my busy day. I'm actually going to say that we brought thousands of people over here. A lot of them are here for a certain reason. If we're not going to support that, let's just tell them straight up so that they don't continue booking guests on shows and having things not work for them. If the car isn't going to run anymore the way you thought it was going to run, why don't we just tell you that instead of pretend we don't hear the problem? Right. So that was my problem with the guys. Not that they pivoted. They have every right to do that. In fact, they have an obligation to the people who are funding them and who are, you know, to their investors and you know, to the people that work for them. They have every obligation to, you know, to do what's in their best interest. But I think to resent the community that rallied to what you were building, there could have been a better way to smooth that over, and I think people would have understood. And I think that's where the disappointment was, that I kind of continued doing my shows until the wheels fell off, when it would have been nicer if you said, you know what, we're not going to fix these wheels at all. So, you know what, if you want to host a talk show, go somewhere else. And that's what they ultimately said. But they waited so long that, you know, it was just really frustrating.
Which is funny that they had a bad communication issue, as Zevzan said there. It's because they had always been like really great at communication, and that was part of the reason, or part of the reason why the Blabaholics group was kind of grew in popularity, was because those guys. I created it, and then I just invited them in, and they came in, and they were answering questions, and they were talking to us. You know, it was like, that was so refreshing for a platform team, founders, to be in there and responding and everything. Now, did we all think that would last forever? No, because if it grew and grew, we didn't expect them necessarily to be able to do that all the time. But it was so cool, and the fact that was one of the attractions, was that, you know, Brittany, at the drop of a hat, I asked Brittany to come on. We were doing a Social Media Club Phoenix weekly show, and she was like the first person that came on. She was like, of course I'll do it. She was on with us for like 2 hours and just chilling with us and answering questions, and people coming in and talking to her. And Furkan was always cool. Sean, CEO, always available almost. You know, I mean, they were trying to get it going. They dropped us. I agree. I mean, it was dropped, and I totally agree with and feel the disappointment myself too. I didn't get to go to Blab headquarters, like on those meetups or anything, but they did have a hand in developing that community in a big way by bringing people in. You know, they're like, oh, come San Francisco, come and hang out with us, and if you're here, blah blah blah. They invited people in. And then towards the end, it just was like, well, we're just not going to be.
They did an amazing job building community.
They did.
I mean,
they really did.
Maybe it's, you know, we should give ourselves some of the credit because we were enthusiastic and but I mean, they got the community part and integrating the chat. I mean, now all these platforms have a lot of these platforms, you know, Blab alternatives have pretty good chats as well. I mean, but when you compare it to like what people were using before Blab, like Google Hangouts and stuff like that, really the ability to discover shows, which they took the discovery thing away. But that was the coolest part of Blab, is you could just go to Blab and go, oh, I see Vincent's in this show. Let me check this out. Yep. Oh, okay. They're talking about sports. Cool. I'll take a listen to this. Or you go to another one. Oh, they're talking about marketing. And so they kind of killed the discovery somewhere along the line, but they did it's like they did the hardest part, because there's plenty of these platforms, right, that are superior to Blab in terms of stability and technology and all that. But, you know, you got to bring your audience. There's no built-in audience for you, and there's no discoverability. So Blab had done all that right. And I felt like if they had communicated nicely with us, appropriately, professionally on the way out, the story could have still been for Sean and for Khan and Brittany, how they built this great community. Maybe they built it before time was ready, before they could afford, you know, what it really costs to sustain a community of that many users, or before the technology got to the point where they could rely on it, whatever it was, right? They really had written a great story for themselves, and then they blew it because the story then became about kind of how they bleeped us over at the end,
right.
kind of.
Right.
And that's the thing. Like, if they just, you know, look, we care because we care about we love the platform. If some other platform, I mean, Tumblr isn't getting much activity or talk about these days, I could care less either way, right? It was a place I threw up some posts from time to time, paid attention to it every 6 months, right? But Blab, we loved.
Yeah, and it was because of that community that we created amongst ourselves, for sure. And how many people we connected with. I mean, like Ross, I don't think you and I connected before that.
Right.
I don't, before a year ago at the earliest. Yeah, it is unfortunate. I guess here's how I feel too is, so I went to Social Media Marketing World again this year. That's my favorite conference. I've been every year. And this was in April, middle of April, I think. And I was psyched, leading up to it, because towards the beginning of this year, they came out and they were like, oh, well, there's a session on Blab that Sean's leading, or on Community that Sean's leading. Then Sean is going to be part of the keynote, and Blab is like being mentioned all over the place. It was like the two big hot topics at that conference among social media marketers was Blab, not live streaming necessarily. It was Blab, because Facebook Live, I forget if that he was even available to everyone yet. I think it might have been, but Blab and Snapchat. They had the Snapchat influencers, like a couple of the big names like Sean Ayala and Sean Duras, and then they had Sean. It was all Sean's. I'm just realizing that. Wow. Sean Puri, CEO of Blab, and the Blab. Brittany was there too, and then Joel did a whole session about Blab. He mentioned the Blabaholics. Like, I was like, oh, that's so cool, man. Thank you. And we took a big picture on stage.
Right.
Blab people. So it was like this whole big thing a month or two prior to.
And that's when it just started to go downhill.
Like right after that. So it was really odd. That part was always odd to me. Like, I don't know if something happened. And then, the organizer, Social Media Examiner, Mike Stelzner,
couldn't get a hold of them, right? He questions about his show or whatever. He had problems.
No, he was bad. Yeah, he was definitely annoyed and frustrated, and threatened to leave and bring his audience with him and all that type of thing, which I totally get. At the time, I felt like it was an overreaction. Just in my personal opinion, I felt like it was an overreaction, just because I didn't really see the whole thing. I didn't think that they were just starting to tail off. I thought it was just maybe a minor thing. They were super busy trying to develop something, and not an app, not another whole separate app. But and he was right. I can totally admit when I'm wrong. He was absolutely right, and they've moved off Blab. Their audience, for better or worse, is at least their weekly show. I don't know if they're doing it on Fire Talk, maybe. Or a different platform.
I think were they using Huzzah, maybe?
Huzzah, yeah. So so that's the thing, right? So now we have Fire Talk, we have Huzzah, we have others that are popping up for this purpose. So we'll find other platforms.
Right.
We already have. It's already happening. There's other platforms, even though I didn't really use them, but things like Spreecast and Justin TV and trying to think of the others, but they've been around. The Ustream, they've been around. But they didn't. The one thing, there's like all those, then Blab, and including Hangouts over here, then Blab, and now there's these other ones. And the one differentiator about Blab was the people, the connections, the community. None of the other ones have that. Still, before, after.
Right, and that's what they did that was amazing. Like, it's like an athlete with great talent who then throws it away.
Yeah, it was serendipitous. It was really because it came along at this like perfect point for whatever reason, where everyone was talking about live streaming community, and there was people that were involved that could bring in all these other people too, that were connecting, right? And from that, it just exploded in our world anyway. And I thought it was limitless for what could happen with that platform.
Right. Yeah, I had expected. A lot of us built our shows around Blab. The whole style of the show that I was doing. Now I'm doing other stuff, but I'm continuing basically with the same show. But you have to be conscious that if you built your show on Blab, that there's really no other platform exactly like that.
Right.
And a lot of times, like, the show would kind of end at 8:00, but I would just keep going. People wanted to hang out and stuff. We just keep going for another hour, an hour and a half, and you keep getting new people joining in and coming in. Like, you don't get that on any other platform.
Right.
I could have, you could have 100-something people watching your after show, right? And some of those people leave and go get dinner. And then other people, like a show where, they get into their car, they listen to a segment, they get out of their car, they come back next time they need to go somewhere. So that was the fun of Blab, is that you could do long form stuff on there, and, you could just sustain it by new people coming in with new ideas in the chat and all that stuff. So It was great while it lasted. So, what is next for you as far as Blabaholics go? Are you going to keep the name? Are you going to change the name? Are you going to focus on other platforms?
Honestly, I think I'd have to probably change the name. So that group, it's funny because there's like 1,100 people in that group that are Blab fans or fans that found it through Blab that are just fans of live streaming. Barb 1192. Thank you. Perfect. Then we got it. Come on, 8 more people. 8 more people. Yeah, I hadn't really thought of it until a couple weeks ago when someone like brought it up. To be honest, I used to do like a daily post in there that I was hoping people would use for posting their shows onto that post. Because what I was trying to avoid with that group was having to become like every other Blab group that developed after that, where it's just people posting their shows just in the whole feed, right? I wanted that group, I still hope to have that group be people posting about and discussing, engaging about the overall topic and having a discussion rather than here's my show, go watch it. You know, I'll concede and put up a post that says here, put your shows for the day here. I'll concede and do that. But the rest of the discussion on the daily basis should be discussion. Should be, you know, here's the new features that are coming out, or what do you think about this and that. So that's why I think I'm based on, you know, talking to some people, talking to you. I feel like that group, there's an interest of just live streaming, the world of live streaming in general. There's other groups that are out there like that exist. You know, Joel's got one. Joel Com has a really good one. So wait, I have to read what Gail said. Do a Facebook Live in the group about what you want. Yeah, I definitely have thought about that. To be honest, time-wise, it's a little bit lower on my list of priorities right now, but it's not gone. I mean, I know that there's a lot of people in there that care about the people that are in there and want to stay connected and all that sort of thing. So I feel like it could be more of an overall overarching theme of maybe it's just about all the platforms, you know, something along those lines. So I'm open to suggestions, like I said in the tweet and the comment that I said back to you. So any of you guys that have comments or have suggestions, if you want to put them over here in the comments, go for it. If you want to send me a tweet or shoot me a message, go for it. I'm open. That's it. So to answer your question more directly, I don't have a specific plan for that group for what to turn it into.
Right. You know, Dan mentioned something else that was really super cool about Blab, and that, you know, on mobile, the audio plays even when you go back to the home screen. So you could really listen to Blab like a great conversation, like a radio show, and you could be doing something else. You could be doing work on your phone. You could go into another app, and Blab continued playing, which was
your
cool.
phone? My phone would get really hot though after a little while. It would start just heating up. So I don't know if that was just my phone or if that was the fact that the phone was using so much to keep that live stream going.
I didn't notice that with Blab.
Is that just me?
I don't know. I know my computer got now I have a different computer, but my computer that I was using, which was a little older, that would heat up when I used Blab. I mean, and it never stopped heating up even when I wasn't using Blab after that. Oh man. So what do you got coming up as far as like any projects, anything coming up, any TV appearances, anything social media, Club Phoenix, any events?
Yeah, we got a couple things actually. So July 29th, we have our good friend Ted Rubin is coming to town. He comes to the Phoenix area and actually northern Arizona. He takes a trip there to visit some friends, I think, every year. And on his way, he usually will stop in Phoenix. And now this is the second year that we're doing a social media Club Phoenix kind of meetup featuring Ted Rubin. And he's the hashtag R return on relationship guy for anyone that doesn't know. But yeah, we'll have a little meetup with him at a local place, and we should get a good turnout for that. It's not, you know, we don't buy everything for everybody. We'll do a few first 25 people free drinks or something. But that's always fun. You know, he makes a good time. He's very interactive, talks to everybody, and Everyone's glad to see him. So there's that. We have some things coming later this year for the club around the small business world and locally for the small businesses locally, to do some things to prepare them for that week of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Giving Tuesday, Small Business Saturday. So because it feels like there's a lack of real like campaign. People focus on Black Friday so much, and then the Small Business Saturday thing right now, I think they could be doing a whole lot more with that. So locally, we're going to do some things to help the small businesses. And personally, I mean, I'm social media manager here at Plexus Worldwide here in Scottsdale. I got a pretty big announcement coming in the next couple of weeks myself personally. So I don't know if anyone cares about that.
Holding us
career wise.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah, I've already let them know here, and but it's we'll be making an announcement regarding that. So that's the biggest thing in my world, obviously.
Planning to stay in the Phoenix area?
Yeah. Well, I love it here.
Cool.
I love it here. I'm not going to be moving unless my wife forces me to. But well, I'm from the East Coast. I'm from Providence originally, right? And we went back to that whole up and down Maryland, DC, Boston, right. Providence, New York City for a day. Went to Times Square and all that for a day. So she got to see all that and loved it and wants to go back. And I don't think she'd want to live there though. So that's a good thing.
Did she see it in the summer or the winter?
It was just around Labor Day, so it was a good time.
Oh, beautiful time.
It wasn't too hot. It was beautiful. We had a great weather. And I showed her all the cool spots and all the fun stuff. And so she loves to travel anyway. So anyway, but I don't think we'll be moving. We're not moving as far as I can tell. We're not moving from Phoenix. There's too much opportunity here. I love it here.
Yeah, I'm overdue for a trip out there.
Man,
I definitely
anytime.
have to do it. Maybe not this month or August, but
no,
in the fall. In the fall, I'm definitely due for a trip out there.
November or March. Best times.
Yeah. Pretty much the whole year is good except for the 3 summer months, right? I mean, it's pretty much from late September to mid-May. It's like perfect.
It is. And that's what makes it all worth it. I don't miss shoveling snow or raking leaves or dealing with black ice or any of that stuff, getting caught on the highway in a snowdrift, pushing my car. Right. Yeah, no, I don't miss that.
The worst thing is you just stay in an air-conditioned place in the middle.
Your heating bill goes up. Your heating bill's expensive for a few months. I mean, then you turn it off during December. I mean, your AC bill is higher.
Right.
But no, there's trade-offs, but to me it's worth it. I've been out here over 10 years and I love it out here.
He's not a guru, and that's where you blog, right? Notaguru.co. Vincent Orleck at Vincent Orleck, Orleck, on Twitter, on Instagram. What's your same Snapchat?
Yeah, it's pretty much my name everywhere.
Awesome. So thank you so much. It's great talk. I'm glad we really didn't have a chance to chat other than, dropping into same Blab. So it's pretty awesome. I love what you're doing with the Facebook group and, good luck with everything. I look forward to chatting with you again. Maybe on another platform, maybe here, maybe on Facebook Live.
No. Hey, Ross, seriously, thank you. I'm honored that you invited me on and really we're talking and talking about all this cool stuff. And I'm a fan of yours and everything that you're doing is super useful and we need it. So keep doing it on a regular basis like you're doing. I have to say this too. So you are absolutely the best planner. Because we set this date. How many months ago was it?
I don't know. I've got the show booked out through the end of the year.
Dude, you're way more organized than I am. Way more organized than I am, and probably more than most people out there. So that kudos to you on that because that's a great skill.
Thank you, man. So great to have you on. Thank you so much, Vincent Orleck